Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the sessions of verbal reasoning. Today, we are going to learn course of action, another very easy concepts, not at all tricky, a very straightforward chapter, a few nuances that you should remember, two, three slides that you must remember upon, and I think you'll be through with this chapter. So, our agenda today is going to cover what is course of action, learn a few concepts, and do some 15 questions on the concept that we learn. So without much ado, let's get started in terms of understanding what is the course of action, nuances, and the subtleties that we must know in order to tackle the questions. Understanding course of action, as the name suggests, it's about predicting certain logical solutions or actions that needs to be taken for pursuance of certain problems or events that they give you. Now, for in exam, they will give you a certain problem, issue, or an event, and they then give you two or even more than two options can be given, and then they can ask you the combinations of it, that only three follows, only two follows, one or two follows, and so on and so forth. But the usual patterns of these questions or the option choices are A, which says only one follows, B, which says only two follows, and C, which says both of them follows, and D, which says neither of them follows. So what are the applications and what are the conceptual things on the basis of which we decide that whether these should follow or not is something that we're going to learn today. So I hope the options are very clear. Now, what are the quick concepts that we need? Simple things. The course of action must always be moral, ethical, lawful, and practical. By practical, I mean ideal situations, right? So we can never suggest immoral actions, unethical actions, unlawful actions, or certain imaginary or impractical choice that we should not suggest. So we will look for an ideal course of things when it comes to a situation or when it comes to an event. Also, I've written in the slide that a sense of responsibility needs to be shouldered. You cannot run away from the responsibility like this is not our job. You go for the concerned authorities, etc., etc. I think that is not very relevant course of action. Inaction is also considered as an action, so I think that is where we need to keep this in mind. That running away, I think, possibly suggesting that what we should do is also a good course of action rather than shunning or avoiding course of action. So the four very simple concepts as a mnemonic that I prefer to my students to basically handle these questions are the leap method. What is the leap? It's upon understanding logical, that actions needs to be logical or sensible to the context of what we're discussing. They are about eventual, so it's course of action is not about the immediate solutions to problems, it's about eventually what are we going to do. So any action that needs to be considered, not only keeping the immediate temporary effects but the eventual solutions for once and for all. I think administratively implementable, the course of action must be administratively implementable. You need to talk about something that is happening or ideal with respect to the administrative policy. Don't go for an extreme things and like I have to create a utopian society or something. In an ideal normal society, what are the things that we can go for? And then obviously practical, it must be practical aspects that must be ideally followed in the scenario. Don't talk about hypothetical or the first in terms or ventures of things. Having said that, let's get started with the application of it. Just remember the mnemonic as LEAP, the logical, eventual, administrative, and practical or ideal. So, what are the few things that you also keep in mind? That you should avoid extreme steps. That is, without warning, we are not supposed to ban anything. We're not supposed to cancel transportation, fire, that is removing somebody, one, or taking any legal action without warnings. So if there is a repetitive warning that you have already given, then okay, you can fire somebody. For example, somebody after even giving you two warnings is coming late to the office, please fire him or her. Taking legal actions, I mean, I need to cover this, that we do not go for the extreme steps prima facie, Violations must be punished. So if you're violating a particular thing that has been given as a punishment, yes, you can do these things, but not without a warning. Try to warn before you take a extreme step. Also, excessive generosity. Don't give things for free. I mean, ideally, practically, administratively, the free things are unviable, and therefore that keep in mind, we are not here for charity. So give anything or everything for free is not a viable ideal course of action. Try to keep in mind that we are administratively involving and we are looking at it from an administrative point of view. So just be careful while suggesting these course of action. They should not involve any free elements. However, the exceptions are if there is a dire or a critical situation like natural calamities, disasters, pandemics, etc., then government does give things uh, for free. Or for example, in pandemic, we have senior citizens had their vaccinations for free. So that could be a noble steps, but to keep it in mind that excessive generosity is something that we should avoid from. Having said that, other two important things that we should keep in mind. Remember that generic problems must have a generic solution. So if a problem is suggested in a more general way, try to provide a solution in also a general way. A specific problem should be having a specific solution. Don't crisscross. I mean, for a general problem, don't go for a specific solution. For a specific problem, don't go for a general solution. I'll give you an example. If you say, for example, there is a traffic congestion problem in Mumbai, I'm not specifying a specific time. So if you are giving a time limit and saying, okay, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., XYZ things should be done. Now, it's obviously we are assuming that, this is the most congestive time. However, the problem was only talking in general. There is a congestion in Mumbai, and therefore people should be encouraged to use public transports and so on and so forth, rather than in the time. So just avoid that. I think that is sensible, but still will not become will become a problem in the exam. Remember, for health hazards, there are immediate actions and there are preventive actions. I mean, every one of us witnessed during this COVID that the immediate action was breaking the chain, staying in, preventing you and yourself from being the part of the chain and protecting your family. But the preventive actions were completely being worked out. So they were working on the solutions of it. They were working on vaccination and the trials of it. So in case of health and life hazards, immediate course of action for the remedy, and then preventive so that in future that similar kind of threat or similar kind of hazard doesn't happen. Try and always address the core issue. Sometimes they mention a cascading kind of a problems, like due to lack of X, Y happened, because of Y, Z happened, because of Z, P happened, because of P, Q happened. So in order to all solve, let's hit the X, because of X everything happened, and it's a cascading effect. So try and address the core issues of the problem. Remember, be logical, be practical. And the last very important tip while evaluating these options, keep in mind, don't make it personal. It's not your problem. Don't be suggestive that, okay, I can suggest a better problem, therefore the option that you have given an A and D or do not make sense. Okay, this is not your problem. I explain to my students in this way that, okay, this is one guy who's suggesting the problems, who's thinking about the problems in his mind, and there is another guy who is B, let's say, who's suggesting upon the solutions and thinking in his mind. And you are none of them. You are neither A, you are neither B. You are actually a person C who is just going to evaluate, these course of actions, and who's going to evaluate it with a grumpy face. You're going to critically evaluate that, okay, if this is the problem, whether this is the solution that whatever B is suggesting is working or not. Don't put yourself in the shoes of A or B. I think that is going to be a big problem for you. So just don't take it personal. Don't make suggestions. For example, you have a better solution, therefore these options are wrong. I think is a bad choice. You just have to see that whether the option given them logically addresses the core problem and resolves the problem rather than creating a very big problem. This chapter is, believe me, very easy. There is no need to revise it. Just keep these few concepts in mind, and let's look at general questions of the application. For example, The cinema hall is incurring heavy losses these days, and people prefer to watch movies in home or TV rather than to visit the cinema halls. So, course of action mentioned this: cinema halls should be demolished, and residential multi-story buildings should be constructed there. Will this solve this problem? I think the heavy losses is something that the cinema hall needs to recover, and cinema hall is for cinema, not for the multi-story building. So I think that's a remedy for the owner of the cinema halls, the owner of the place, but not for cinema halls in general. And then cinema halls should be converted into shopping malls is again a lol kind of a problem that uh, I don't think this is ridiculous. This is not addressing the core issue, and neither of them are suggestive. So we'll go for D, which says neither of them are valid. So like another one, severe drought is reported to have set in several parts of the country. Course of action number 1 says government should immediately make arrangements for providing financial assistance to those affected, and then water, food, and fodder should be immediately be sent to all these areas to save the people in capital. So which makes completely sense. So I think the majority of the people go with B, but I think the C is the correct answer because even the first makes sense. How? See, we are not providing financial assistance, we are just immediately making arrangements for it. I think which is a sensible choice. Ideally, you should start making arrangements. For example, put up ads, put up a contribution helpline, look for donations and things. So start making arrangements. I think that is valid, and immediately getting the urgent supplies for even for free is definitely valid because there is a severe drought set. So both of them follow, and therefore the answer to this one is going to be C. Now let's apply, I think, the 3-step. Just read the statement, think whether it's an event or an issue, and then evaluate the options correctly. Just think whether they are administratively implementable and addressing the core issue. Keep that leap in mind. We have to provide logical, eventual, administrative, and practical solutions to it. Now, having said that, let's look at certain questions. The question number 1 to 15. Now we have 5 options given. Only a certain scenario this either or is going to follow. In certain questions like strong and weak arguments, it does follow, but for others it doesn't, because guys, these chapters, how can two contradictory solutions solve a problem? So we should refrain from even thinking about this option in these chapters specifically. So let's only consider the first D. The first 4 will become the relevant answers to these. Now, the sale of XYZ in the company has dropped significantly. So the sale has dropped, and then since its rival brand has arrived, now what we should do, the quality of model Y should be improved and its price should be decreased. So we can improve the price, but we can improve the quality, but decreasing the price would call financial strains. I mean, this is going to be an impractical solution. This is not practical. So I believe we'll cancel this out. The XYZ cell phone company should do a thorough research on the rival company's product and strategy. I think not any harm, sensible, practical solution. So we should do it. Again, it's not my point of view. It's not my personal problems. It's not my company. Therefore, I'm not going to consider that, okay, second, we could do something more than the second one. So I'm just evaluating it critically, and then B seems fine. To the next, there is an increase in demand of imported fruits. So when there is a demand increase, you should increase the supply. That's the most sensible course of action. The government should increase the import duty. I mean, that is not going to solve the problem. That's going to worsen the problem. The fruit vendors should not be allowed to sell imported fruits. Like, oh no, both of them doesn't make sense. D, which says neither of them are valid. Okay. Let's go to the next question. With the onset of monsoon, a number of cases from malarial infections have been reported. People should be advised to wear long sleeves clothing and minimize exposure to bare skin. I think that makes sense. This seems ridiculous if you become suggestive that what we should do fogging, we should put ads on the television. Again, don't be suggestive. Just because those valid course of action are in your head doesn't mean this is not going to work. This is definitely solving the problem, and it's practical and administratively implementable. Government should provide anti-malarial drug free of cost. But see, even providing anti-malarial drugs is not going to decrease the number of cases. It's going to cure the people. And plus, is this a people are dying? Is this a dire situation? No. So free of cost becomes an alarming situation. So not excessive generosity. However, A seems to be fine. Therefore, the option is going to be the first one, that is A. In spite of teachers' repeated warnings, a student was caught using cell phone in the class. So, interesting word. In spite of teachers' repeated warning. Now, let's punish him. The cell phone should be immediately confiscated, and the children should be warned against. So, I think practically very good. You should immediately confiscate the child's mobile phone. The child should be punished for his act. Absolutely correct, because violations must be punished. So, both of them becomes the correct answer. The answer is C. Fifth one, the vapors released by house paints are toxic and can cause cancer or asthma. The relevant authorities should raise concerns about the long-term health effects of off-gassing and the release of vapors. I think yes, seems like a long-term strategy, but yes, because we should raise concerns, and because when the voice is created, this problem is eventually going to solve. So yes, course of action is sensible. Only water-based paints which are less toxic should be used to solvent-based. Now, this becomes a problem. The problem is only, see, water-based paints should be used. Fair enough. Only water-based paste. Now you're exclusivizing things up without prior intimation. What about the people who are based on it? So not practical, not effective, because it's impractical. Therefore, we'll go for the option A. The next, Facebook helps one connect to different people anywhere in the world, but its rise in its popularity, one's privacy and security is frequently compromised. One should regularly view one's privacy settings and maintain a check on the information shared with others. Absolutely correct. One should refrain from putting any photographs. Now that's impractical. So check your policies rather than refraining from putting photographs at all. A large number of southern right whale calves are dying off the coast of Argentina, sparkling concerns among marine scientists and conservation officials. The relevant authorities must study the differences between the whale calf's present situation and the situation in the past. I think studies are always a good course of action, because they eventually, it's a research, it helps you build it. The second one, the conservation officials should check whether there is a need to change the monitoring system or not. So maybe their conditions are changing and therefore they need to change a certain monitoring system of theirs. So fair enough, both of them sensible, both of them practical, follows my leap, and therefore answer should go as C. Next one, the publishing industry has always made most of its money through the hardcovers, but now the ebooks have reduced revenues manifold. Drop the prices of the hardcover bestsellers and increase the price of ebooks. Not a practical solution, because then people might not. This is not a practical way to boost your hardcover sale. Ebook should be priced in a way that costs are met and overall revenues are maximized. I think that is a more sensible and a more passive approach towards it. So fair enough, we'll accept for B. Look at 9, a uniquely dangerous termite. Okay, look at the words very carefully. Tunnels up the sides of the houses has recently turned up in South Florida, raising a total number of termites that could be living in the region by 25 to 30%. The district administration should organize a campaign to raise awareness about the new species. Absolutely, because it's a new species, so people should be warned. And the pest department of the state should identify all the major invested sites and treat them. Absolutely correct. So both of them follow the leap, and therefore correct answer. The state of Gujarat is worst affected by floods recently. The chief minister should immediately send a rescue team to Gujarat. Absolutely sensible. The chief minister should immediately form a commission to investigate the cause of the flood. See, again, life hazard, so threat, life, and they have been worst affected. So other states are also affected, but they are worst affected, so which needs a investigate the cause of the flood as well, that why was the flood caused and why were they worst affected. So I think both of them sensible enough. We go for C. 11, the leading newspaper survey reveals women find it unsafe to work in the company X. Company X should make measures to create a safe working environment for women. Absolutely correct. They should stop hiring women, which is lol. Uh, Definitely a sexist, biased measure, and definitely impractical, therefore invalid. 12th, Company X called back all its car manufactured after 2013 on account of its defective part. Company X should sue the supplier. Again, without verifying, you can't sue for the defective parts. So you have to assess whether there was a quality problem from your end or there was something else as a problem. It should fire its entire quality control department. Entire, I think, again, extremes being mentioned here, and therefore Delhi, none of them make sense for Delhi. Next one, customers now prefer product X of the company A to product Y of the company B. Company B should immediately launch another product to the rival. Again, impractical. If so many things are in the project pipeline, why would it not you issue it in the first place? So not practical. Should investigate the cause of this preference. Okay, yeah, this is investigative, so definitely valid. So answer should go as Bombay. The second last, employees working on computers suffer from spinal injuries. So directive should be issued regarding the correct posture while working on the computers. I think makes sensible call. Employees should not hire people, those who not hire people not used to working on computers. Again, is an impractical solution. It's a lol solution. So yeah, invalid. 15th, in today's scenario, attrition has become a most common dangerous alarm to all the HR employees, and organizations are facing trouble finding out. So the core problem is mentioned as attrition. Benefits offered by organization should be alike. Prima facie, this option doesn't look good. I think, what? Why should we, our organization could be alike? Should be alike, impractical, but isn't that the only sensible solution, that benefits offered? Because this benefits can be monetary, this benefits can be work schedule related, this benefits can be location oriented, this benefit can be growth related, suitable project related, etc., etc. So he has used a very umbrella word for it. So benefits offered to organization should be alike, which is good. The companies should offer decent salaries, otherwise employees. Now, this is a specific solution to the problem. You just assumed that people leave the job because of salaries, while there can be other benefits as well. So I think benefit is a more holistic solution, more general solution, and therefore a more sensible call. So I hope that is all from my end. Chapter is again very easy. Just keep leaps in mind while solving it out. I think you've learned the concept. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching and learning. Bye-bye.